Caruso runs a break. Caldwell Pope goes to the wing here. James! Oh!
Trying to play at the defensive end, got blown by back.
Oh, yes!
Hook jam!
Harden, step back, puts up the three, got hit. Shot's good! And one!
Back this time here, Steph.
Oh, Russell Westbrook!
Keeping on James Harden and, a little bit of the Brooklyn Nets. He recently just had an interview with Rachel Nichols on from the Jump about his Houston debacle that kind of took place at the beginning of the season. Now, I know a lot of people, including yourself, wasn't a big fan of how he handled that situation and, felt like that what he was doing kind of being, a whine baby, kind of being selfish, come across like that. And he himself has said, he wished it went differently, excuse me. He said he wished that he had done it, differently because, even though he wanted to get out of her, the way that was perceived by everybody and the way it looked, he didn't want it to be that way. But he said he had to do what he had to do to get out of there. He's grateful for the Houston Rockets even trading him to Brooklyn because, as we all know, that was like his main destination. It's either that or Philly, mostly, Brooklyn because of Kevin Durant. And he even says, averaging damn near 40 points a game was exhausting for him towards the end of his tenure because we know James Harden been averaging the uppers of 30 for the past, 4 years, 3-time scoring champion, MVP in one of those years as well. So he even admitted that doing that during his tenure kind of got tiring. Now, do you think? I know I kind of mentioned before how you kind of looked at it at the time, but now reflecting on it and him coming out and making the statements, do you think James Harden handled that whole situation properly, or was there a better way he could have went about requesting a trade and trying to get out of Houston and get to Brooklyn?
I think there was a little bit of a dicey. I can't even say one way or the other because on one end, look, I just want to see a brother be happy. If he didn't want to be in Houston, I mean, who am I to tell him that he needs to stay there? Like for me, I've quit jobs and I've declined job interviews and different things for things that I didn't want to be a part of. And nobody's going to sit here and say, oh, well, you should just be grateful that he has an opportunity. He should just shut up and do his job. Like, no, you should definitely do what you want to do to be happy, but there's a right way to go about it. And with me, I have a pet peeve about people not showing up to work and being their best self just because they don't want to be there. I've always been from the mindset that if you're getting paid to do something, even if you don't like it, either do your job or get out. And there would have been a more amicable way of him doing that, not throwing the team under the bus. You can see from when the rumors of him not wanting to be on the team versus how well he was playing before that, you could see the literal drop off in effort from his stats. Like you mentioned, he was going from averaging the most points in the league, 35 plus, to averaging 20 over the last 4 or 5 games he was there before he got traded. And then he's throwing the team under the bus saying we're just not good enough. And there's also the general knowledge that he is the main architect of that team. How are you going to look at the person who's in charge of developing a building? And then at the end of it, he says, you know what? I hate this project. I hate the way it looks. I hate the arches. I hate the windows. I hate the doors. Bro, you don't want to put them in here. You're the one who said you wanted these pieces. You brought all of these. We brought them together. Now, now, wait a second.
Hold on.
I will
say this. Wait. All right, go ahead. Finish your point. Go ahead.
No, I'm about to be finished. I'm going to pass it back to you, Passion. Just calm down for a second because I'm just saying you can't be mad at the organization because they gave you what you wanted, and it turns out you didn't like what you wanted. That's not on them. That's on you. But that's all I got to say. Go ahead.
Now, I would say, in going into this season, besides the John Wall trade that he kind of okay, because we see that like even John Wall came out, there wasn't any real chemistry going on between those two, but he just kind of okay to trade just to see. I feel like with the move that they made this past year, wasn't really things that you want because you gotta remember Daryl Morey was gone, then Tony's gone, so those were his two main guys. Like Daryl Morey was the guy that took the chance on him and took that trade from OKC and made him the guy there. So he trusted him. Then Tony was the guy that made him this offensive juggernaut. Not saying he wasn't one before, but him playing with Kevin McHale, we didn't get to see him flourish as much until D'Antoni came there and built the offense around him. So you had those two people gone. Now you have these players. You have DeMarcus Cousins come in, John Wall come in. Now eventually they traded for Victor Oladipo, which is funny. Because I haven't heard too many people talk about this. And there's no shade thrown at them. But Houston to me now kind of seems like the redemption team. Because you have players who are coming back from injuries who trying to, they got a little chip on their shoulder. They trying to prove to people they still got it. Boogie, John Wall, John Wall's playing good. You know, Boogie's averaging under 10 points. You know, come off the bench to Christian Wood, who's playing phenomenal, but is injured right
Amazing.
now.
Most improved player.
He's up there. He is. And you got Victor Oladipo now too, who they traded, you know, initially for Karis LeVert, but then they sent him to Indiana for, you know, Victor. You got those type of players there who is supposed to be your star players, but you know, like I said, they are kind of like coming back from injury. People kind of forgot about them, you know, but they are still a good competitive team. When I watched them, Houston, you know, is top in defense.
I like them. John Wall's been a great defender.
They are. They got a lot of good wins. They got some young guys in Jay Sean Tate. They picked up Sterling Brown from Milwaukee. They still got like some of the key guys they had when they went on the run with James Harden. They still got PJ Tucker. They still got Eric Gordon, who plays good too. They still got Ben McLemore. They got some of those key guys still there. But I can see what James said because, you know, at this point in his career, he even said himself, he done everything you could have done individually. Now he's at the point where he wants to, you know, do something collectively. And I see that with him in Brooklyn right now. People complain about, oh, he's not scoring as much, this and that. But he wants to play in that playmaker role. He wants, you know, to not have that offensive load on him anymore, as he stated that it became draining to him in Houston. So that's how I feel in the situation.
I mean, I get all of that, and all that can be true. I'm not really debating the actual basketball logistics of whether he wanted to be with Kyrie and Kevin Durant versus Christian Wood and DeMarcus Cousins. Like, I'm not arguing that. What I'm arguing is, why do you have to go about it like that? Like, for a guy to have been in a great relationship with an organization since 2013, because he's been there for 7-8 years at that point, and to have 7 years of them catering to you, and then have 1 year where the organization themselves didn't even really do anything, because Mike D'Antoni moved on his own. Daryl Morey moved on his own. None of them were fired by the organization. They decided to move on. So that's not the Rockets' fault. And then to have them, I mean, okay, they saw it right on the wall, and that's cool. But that's not on the organization. At that point, if anything, that's more on James Harden, because they wouldn't have left if they felt like James Harden was a guy, because the organization was doing everything James Harden wanted to do. If you look back at all the playoff runs, who was the one commonality on all those disappointing seasons? James Harden. All of those playoffs, James Harden played worse than he did in the regular season. You can say however you want to say it if you choked or not, but he played worse than he did in the regular season.
Not the last season. I don't think this past postseason. I don't think he played that bad.
No, that was definitely the best one that he's had since pretty much 2015. But at the same time, you've got to say that James Harden is more at fault than the organization, in my opinion. If I'm the one writing the defending statement for the Houston Rockets, that's what I'm saying. On top of that, they did as best as they could with what they had to play with, because they had a whole bunch of bad contracts, no draft picks because of the things that James Harden wanted them to do. And they put together, considering what they could have done, the most that they could do. Not to mention, if you really consider, because when you look at a lot of these stars, what is the reason they leave? Why did PG leave Indiana? Why did people think Giannis is going to leave the Bucks? Why did LeBron leave the Cavs and AD leave the Pelicans? Because, the organization's not doing enough to cater to them and help them win now. Nobody, including James Harden, can say that about the Rockets. If there's any organization that can be shown to be a model organization around putting the pieces that your star wants, it would be the Rockets, because no other team has done that. So with all that in mind, I have no problem with James Harden wanting to leave. I just do not like the way he went about it, because he pretty much had this great relationship. And then after a couple of arguments and fights and things he didn't like, he basically said, F that B, and did the dash and did them dirtier than they deserve. That's all I'm saying.
Now, I don't want to look at it from like a negative like mindset of him just like, you know, I know it was kind of what we thought of at the beginning. He's like, you know, F this, I'm done. But now thinking about it, you know, as I even described the team now, and even when you point out with Daryl Morey and Mike D'Antoni leaving on their own accord, it's just like the team ran its course, basically. And it's not uncommon. It happens in the league all the time. Windows closed. Like the team just ran its course and he just wanted to move on. You know, we see some players who are just for life, it's for their team, who's gonna ride or die with them no matter what. We've seen it more common back then, but now in this day and age where players have more power, players, you know, decide where they want to go and they have more leverage now. You know, he saw the writing on the wall, like, okay, even though he was catered to the most, you know, the team, where else could they go from there? They wasn't going to get any bigger names. He wasn't going to get Steph Curry. He wasn't going to get –
I agree with all of that.
Yeah.
I'm not even disagreeing with that. I just don't like the way he went about it, because there was a much more
but it wasn't
way.
that bad,
like,
though.
Even
he could have –
he literally went to the media and said, this team is not good enough. I don't want to be here, and then dipped. And then you can literally see it in his stats that this man just stopped.
He did not. Now, don't put words in his mouth. He didn't say I do not want to be here because you talking about the last press.
Okay, he did not. Okay,
he didn't say
he
I
didn't
do
say
not
it.
want to be
He
here.
did not say it deliberately. He said this team's not good enough. I don't know what else to do. Blah blah blah. I don't have the transcript in front of me, but it was obvious to anyone who had ever heard a passive aggressive "I don't want to be here." He didn't want to be there.
But he tried.
That's why he got
but he
traded
tried though. This was after he played though. It's not like he just said that. You know, I know he kind of wanted to leave at the beginning
Why
of
is
the
it so
season.
hard? Why is it so hard for you to acknowledge the fact that he went about it in a way that was not showing any respect to the Rockets? How did he put effort in when he
played? He played with the team and like he just saw like okay. Now he did show up out of shape. James Harden is at some fault. He showed up out of shape.
He was going to the club.
He was
during training camp.
Partying with little baby, getting a honey bun for a honey bun.
Okay, so imagine right now if you had work right now and then they saw you on this podcast or they saw you at the club with your girl or they saw you doing something that's not doing your job at the time that you're supposed to be there when everybody else shows up. What does that say? Is that respectful? Is that trying? Because was he doing that before though? Was he doing that before?
I'm trying to get out. That's if I'm trying to get out, I gotta do what I gotta do.
Okay.
I'm just playing.
Hey, well, just know if I'm the one writing your checks, some of them are gonna be late. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say.
Hey, no, that's a
Let me be an NBA owner. Let me be an NBA owner and some stuff like this slide. Trust me, the CBA is gonna be totally different because I ain't playing that.
Now that is the big question, you know, with things like that, you know, with the Pelicans, you know, moving AD and we've seen these players kind of forcing their way out. You know, if Giannis would have done it, that really would have like set the catalyst of like, okay, these owners was going to try to take back control. Because I stated, you know, the players have a little bit of leverage. It's 50-50 now with them.
They got a little
owners.
too much leverage, in my opinion. I love fighting for the players. I'm pro player, obviously, but I just don't like the idea of an employee basically being able to just straight up say, you know what, I'm not going to do my job and you're going to pay me while I'm not doing it. Literally, if you don't want to play, that is fine. But the same way, if you call into your work shift, you don't get paid your hourly wage, you shouldn't get paid for games you don't play. Simple as that. I don't think he should have got paid. I don't think Kyrie should have been getting paid. I don't think when Andre Iguodala was with Memphis, I don't think he should have been getting paid while he was there. Like, no, you can't get paid and not show up to work. You can't do that. I'm sorry. I just don't believe in that. Everything else is fine, but no, I'm not playing that. If you want to sacrifice checks, that's on you. Like, I can't tell you to come here and get paid, but you won't get paid if you don't come. Simple as that.
That's definitely a discussion they'll be having at the next CBA meeting coming up. I know they will.